Welcome back. This is ANC. Now, as you know by now, the High Court in Pretoria has found that a large number of government's regulations governing levels 3 and level 4 of the national lockdown were irrational and must be amended to fall in line with the Constitution. In case the ruling by Justice Judge Davis is very, very clear that all lockdown regulations need to be amended. Now, it suspended the ruling for 14 days to give Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma time to redraft the regulation to ensure that they pass the legal test of rationality. And of course, she was the main respondent in this matter brought to court by Reno David de Beer and an organization known as Liberty Fighters Network, and also as a friend of the court, Hola Born Renaissance Foundation. But like most stuff that plays itself out in our courts, and particularly on a national matter like this, there are political significance or political ramifications, or at least I would like to think so. But to set me right is ANC political editor Vuyo Mvoko, who's joining me now in the studio. Vuyo, good morning. What could the political ramifications of this ruling be, while we still wait for government's full and considered response, because they are busy now studying the ruling?
Obviously, then, this is going to hurt the executive because it's a negative finding against them. But if there is maturity on the part of the executive, then it won't. It's an opportunity to correct some of the wrongs or to clarify some of the things they have been asked by South Africans repeatedly during this period to actually clarify. You need consistency here. Something can be good for one group of people and be bad for another group. And by the president's own admission only a few days ago, there are issues that they could have dealt with a lot better than they actually have. And he has conceded to that. He has conceded that some of his ministers and people like, some of the Defence Force members have been overzealous and as a result done things that he wishes they could not have done. So this is perhaps an opportunity for the executive in particular to go and make sure that they do the things that they are being implored by the judge to do. It won't hurt, in my view.
Yeah, one of the points of the ruling, the judge makes the point that in dealing with this, and in the response government gave to this in court in affidavit was the balance of, if you have to choose between economic challenges and saving lives, they choose saving lives. But there's an interesting point in the ruling where, according to the judge, the counsel for the minister conceded that monetary recompense cannot remedy the loss of rights, such as dignity, freedom of movement, assembly, association, and the like.
Exactly. And this is what a lot of actually very rational, patriotic people who support everything, like a lot of things that have actually been put in place. They're saying, make sure that you don't muddy the waters. If anything, strive to clarify as far as you possibly can. And I don't think the executive has actually taken that koptu, as we would say in South Africa. Perhaps they've been overwhelmed, as they keep on saying to us every day, this is uncharted. These are uncharted waters, so mistakes are going to be made. But it's always better to err on the side of the Constitution of the law. That is important, because the beauty about litigation is that it settles things, but litigation doesn't always provide the best solutions.
Constitution, and very briefly, before we conclude, could we or should we expect political fallout from some of the main players here? It was a collective decision, from what you understand. Nobody, even the court, has found that the declaration of a national state of disaster on the 15th of March was irrational. They found that it was rational, but it's the lockdown regulations. Should we expect some fallout from this?
I suspect not a fallout, especially after the president himself considered that perhaps with the benefit of hindsight, he should have shown more leadership, should have led from the front and not lead some of these things to, leave some of these things to his ministers, who then, because the tendency among South Africans that because they don't want to seem to be harsh or not liking the president, so they sort of cushion him. and then vent their rage, and dissatisfaction at his ministers, which I thought was being unfair. And by his own admission, he hasn't really come forward to protect them, to say these are the collective decisions of the executive. He has said that once or twice, but he hasn't acted in such a manner. It's time for him to come forward. It's time for them to sit down, be sober about it, and actually look at what needs to be corrected. And I think even whether it's the applicants or the broader South Africa that actually agrees with what the judge said, I don't think this is time for triumphalism. I think we should all sit down and say, how best do we do this going forward to the best interests of all of us.
Thank you very much, Vuyo Mvugo,
in the best interest.
Political auditor. And of course, this discussion we've been having will play again on ENCA tonight, I'm told, at 10 o'clock. It's a big, big court ruling. We still await to hear a full response from government.